By now, all of you know very much about the ICE raids that are basically going all over around the country, and also the ICE protests. Now, we'll deal with the ones in some of the larger cities: Seattle, Los Angeles, and the like, Chicago. Many people are coming out and they're protesting these ICE raids. It's getting worse, and the reason why is because a lot of people are not just getting sent back illegally. There are people who are being sent back, according to some folks, who actually have papers. And then you have people who have businesses, where you have some of these people who are working for these businesses that voted for Trump, and then now they're being sent back. And now people who have these businesses with like 40% immigrants are being devastated as their businesses are going into turmoil. But the biggest story about this is the ongoing beef or conversations happening between the African American community and the Latino community. I've seen Latinos asking for Black support, asking Blacks to basically come out and help them. But Latinos have forgotten this.
History between Black Americans and Mexicans in Los Angeles, I'll extend that to Southern California, is not a good history. Mexicans went on an erasure campaign, erasing Black people out of their communities for years. I could get deeper in detail. There's history out there. Check this video out.
In other words, he's a minority like me, so I can't speak up against him. If this was white folks committing these lynchings to us in South Central, what's going on, there would be an outrage in this country. We have had firebombs thrown through windows. We have had people's cars burned in the driveway because they happened to move into the wrong communities. We had a lady who moved to East LA, came to the state from the South, not knowing what East LA was. It was an all-Hispanic community. She wasn't there one day. We had another man who was burned out of his house in Torrance last year. We had 5 murders in Hawaiian Gardens just because the people were Black. This would not be tolerated if this was white on Black crime. But the fact that these people come here, and it's the numbers, sir. It's the numbers. They come here in the numbers, they build up the Hispanic community, and they get this sense of power against us. And there are race riots in the schools every day in Los Angeles. It never makes the media. The Black kids are being run out of the schools every day and told to go back to Africa. It never makes the media. We are having people who are being discriminated against on every avenue of society.
Let's go back to Los Angeles and Southern California. Now, Northern California, where I'm from, is a little bit different, but there are so many African Americans that have moved into neighborhoods where Hispanics were there, and they've been burned out of their homes. They've been beat up. They've been bullied. And African Americans were complaining about this. And we know that beef between the two have always existed. And Hispanics, typically, not all the time, but, have not really had a say on the destruction of Black people or whatever was going on with Blacks. Keep in mind that Hispanics heavily benefited from the civil rights movement and the brown and Black coalition, especially in Chicago. Like, the Black community really taught the Latino community about the civil rights era and how they get protections and things like that. And now the Hispanic community, because you have just, Mexicans and Colombians, Brazilians, all of them make up the Hispanic community, are now larger than the hashtag FBA or historical African American community. And now, since they have some pull in certain parts of the country, especially like in big cities like Houston, you're seeing things like this.
Houston Community College is facing a $100 million lawsuit. Hundreds of African American employees, both past and present, say they faced racial discrimination while working at HCC. Channel 2's Roseanne Aragon is live tonight with a closer look at what this new lawsuit claims. Roseanne?
This lawsuit was intentionally filed today. The plaintiff tells us she represents many. Houston Community College slapped with a $100 million racial discrimination lawsuit filed on none other than the Juneteenth holiday. At the center of the case is Zelia Brown, a former employee who says she and others have been racially targeted by HCC leadership. The suit also reveals an email chain from Chancellor Cesar Maldonado, which states now we Hispanics are going to receive preferential treatment.
This is a pattern. That's something that is methodically and deliberately done to ostracize that individual.
The suit names Maldonado, HR Director Janet May, and Board of Trustees member Adriana Thomas, claiming they worked intentionally on a, quote, well-developed, systematic, entrenched, and wildly successful campaign of race and sex discrimination against top-level black employees, stating that 90% of the longtime black professionals at HCC have either been terminated or demoted, while there has been a 50% increase in Hispanic hires and promotions.
Whether it is demoting them by pay, placing them in a lower level position, creating schemes.
Brown says it happened to her. In 2016, she was hired to advise on grant use and compliance. In 2018, when she found what she believes was a clear pattern of misused funds and spoke up.
Every avenue that I would go down, they would present an obstacle.
But the lawsuit cites other alleged tactics, including padding black employee personnel files with false complaints. For Brown,
they just immediately placed me on administrative leave.
In March, she resigned, and
there have been dozens, as I've said, that have come forward.
Now, the Houston Community College situation was a big scandal where you had African Americans who were working inside of Houston Community College quitting or being demoted because there was a plan to replace those individuals with Hispanics, right? Professional blacks are diminishing within the Houston Community College system. We are seeing Hispanics come up, right? And that's a problem. But an African man exposed this about Hispanics or Mexicans that he's working with.
In my company, I'm a black man. I own a company. I hire a Latino. The Latino comes back and complain about the African Americans because the Latino thinks because I'm African, I don't have any relationship with the African American. The Latino comes to me and tell me that you are an immigrant. I'm an immigrant. That African American cannot work. I have Jose, I have Gonzalez, my brothers who know how to work very well. You need to fire the African Americans and I will bring a lot of hardworking Latinos who work for your company. This is my company as a black man. My company. I was a contractor at Quantico Marine Base in Virginia. A contractor for General Electrics. And the Latino workers that are hired, they are snitching on the African American workers that are hired for me to fire the African Americans so they can bring Latinos to take their place.
Now, this African man is saying something that's very powerful. He's saying, hey, listen, I have African American employees in my business and I have Hispanic employees. So the Hispanics are saying, listen, you are an African. You are not like them. Get rid of the African Americans. And what you can do is replace them with Hispanics. Now, this video has went viral. I want you to see how the brothers and sisters responded to this video. So people got in the comments after the African brother said what he said, right? And the comments were interesting. This person goes, my homegirl is mixed with black and white, but she looks Latino. She worked for a Mexican-owned car dealership in Atlanta for 3 years. The whole time they thought she was Latino too, but just couldn't speak Spanish. Soon as they found out she was actually black, they fired her. Now this one says, blacks are learning finally. This other one says, black folks across the globe must unite. This person says, where did they get this idea that black Americans don't work? Black people work, we're just the last hired and the first fired. And black Americans usually don't have the advantage of speaking a second language, but they shouldn't have to. This is their country. Another individual says, try to work for a Latino company as an African American and see what happens. The door will be slammed in your face the minute they lay eyes on you. This other person says, I had a Dominican dude snitch on me in the military, act cool with you, and they get around white people and act completely different. This last person says, they will eventually take over your company. Be careful. Now, this is something that I want to talk about because we may have differences of opinion in the African diasporan world. We're still trying to figure things out, right? But here's something I want to go ahead and give kudos to that brother. He's an African man, and definitely, he said, I'm a black man, right? I'm from Africa, but I'm not getting rid of African Americans just so I can hire Hispanics. Because if a Hispanic person is talking like that, anybody's talking like that, then what they're going to try to do eventually is to replace you as the owner somehow. All right. And you got to understand that the same way they look at the African Americans, they're going to look at you the same. I'm going to tell you a story. One day I was walking in Poland. It was 2000. I got to 2016. Okay. And it had to be around 2017. Zimbabweans were moving into the city I was living in a lot. Nigerians used to be the #1 group, but it just happened that Zimbabweans were there more. We're walking down the street. A car drives by and says, "Go back to Africa inward." Okay? Now, the other guys were offended by it. I was also offended by it. Anybody could say, well, hey, they're not talking about me because I'm an American. And that was the wrong thing to think. Because just because I was an American, citizenship-wise, that comment was also meant for me because of the complexion of my skin. I'm black, right? So I know very well if they're anti-African, they're also anti-me. It wouldn't have mattered if I had a problem with the Zimbabwean community, which I don't. I love Zimbabweans. Wouldn't have mattered if I had a problem with the Nigerian community, which I don't. I love Nigerians, right? It wouldn't matter. The way that they saw me, it was the person that was driving by. It was, you shouldn't be here. Go back to where you're from. And anybody playing that level of division, trying to separate blacks and Africans on behalf of them, no, I don't agree with that. If we're going to fight like the blacks, Africans, African Americans, if we're going to disagree, let us have our disagreement between ourselves. But we should never allow another group to separate us on to serve them. Because here's what I'll tell you. Mexicans, Puerto Ricans don't get along for the most part. Mexicans and Dominicans don't get along. Puerto Ricans and Dominicans understand that they're Hispanic, all right? Even the Brazilians and some of these other people out there who don't even speak Spanish, they're not gonna stop their solidarity on the behalf of Africans or the blacks. Some of them may look at themselves as different from us. We gotta understand what the play is. What we need, even if we don't always get along, we need to have some level of unity. And I like the fact what the brother's doing, right? If we gonna fight it out, let us fight it out on some other terms. But to say, oh, I'm gonna get rid of African Americans, I'm gonna get rid of Nigerians and replace them with Hispanics, never. Never. We should never do that because they would never do that. You think a Hispanic would say, hey, we're gonna get rid of the Dominicans for blacks? Even if they don't like a Dominican, they will never do it for you. Because at least with the Dominican, they have some level of shared language, some level of shared culture. They don't have no shared level of culture with you. So guys, what do you think? It's your boy, Dude Jackson, back at it again with another episode of Kinganda. I'm out.